Story 1. Let me in. I was 16 years old at the time, and I live in a very quiet suburban neighborhood. You know, one of those areas that it's like out of a movie. It's kind of annoying, but at the same time it's good to see people looking out for each other. But one night it all changed. It was a cold weekend night. I was left alone. My parents went over to some friend's house that live on the next street over. I stayed home and was just playing video games. It had been around 10 p.m. I was settled in and decided to watch a movie. Halloween is my favorite with Michael Myers. I had most of the lights off and you could hear the rain hitting the roof and windows. It was coming down hard for a little bit there. I was about halfway through the movie. Something made me pause. I heard a noise that sounded like it was coming from right outside. About 15 minutes later, I heard a loud thud. It sounded like it was coming from the front door, like someone was trying to get in. I froze for a second. I started walking over to the front door, slowly, trying to take a look through the peephole, and I saw a lady standing on the front porch. I do not recognize her from the neighborhood. She was saying, "Please open up. I need help," and that her car broke down and that her cell phone was dead. That she wants to see if I could let her in and use the phone. I hesitated for sure. Out of all these houses you wind up at mine. There was a car on the opposite side of the street. I saw it when I took a peek out on the front windows of my house. The car looked like it was still running. I could see the parking lights on, and it was cold, so you can see exhaust smoke coming from the tailpipe. Unless she has a flat tire, there is nothing wrong with her car. I opened the front door to see her standing there all wet from the rain. She says, "Thank you," and as soon as I started to step aside, I saw out of the corner of my eye a man dressed all in black sprinting towards the house, and he had something in his hand, but I could not tell what it was. I slammed the door shut, locking both locks and putting the chain on the door as well. She started screaming and pounding on the door. "Let me in. Please let me in." The man in all black reached the front door and started banging on it, yelling at me to open the door or else. Next thing I hear glass breaking at the rear of the house. We have a glass door that is on the patio to get into the house. I started running towards the kitchen. Then I saw the man trying to get in through the broken glass, and without even thinking, I grabbed a knife from on top of the stove and told him if he comes any closer, I will stab him. He got caught up in all the jagged glass. There was blood all over the place. He was screaming at me, telling me he was going to hurt me, and then realizing he was not going to get in, he took off around to the front side of the house. I ran back to the living room. I was shaking uncontrollable, as you can imagine. This is like a bad movie coming to real life for me. I grabbed my phone. I dialed 911, telling the dispatcher what was happening. It looks like to be 3 people trying to break into my house. She was trying to keep me calm and letting me know that she has officers in the area and that they would be there in less than 2 minutes. She told me to stay on the phone with her and give her as much information as I could. The banging on the front door got worse. Even the 911 operator could hear it, and the girl that was outside was yelling, saying, "You don't understand. Please let us in. We will not hurt you." The dispatcher told me to go find a place to hide. So I went upstairs to my room, locked my door and also put a chair in front of it, and just waited on the police to show up. The operator was trying to keep me calm. Then in a matter of seconds, everything went silent. The banging stopped and I hear footsteps coming up the stairs. I could hear sirens. I stayed frozen and scared to death. I was hoping the police would get to me before the intruders did, and then I hear a loud knock on my door. The person said, "This is the police." I hesitated for a second. As I was still on the phone with a 911 operator, she told me it was safe to go ahead and walk over to the door and open it. I took the chair away from the door and opened it slowly. The officer said, "I will take you downstairs to safety." The other officer says it's clear that no one was found hiding in the house. Next thing you know, all the neighbors are outside. And before I could even call my parents, they showed up. The police took my statement and gathered up the broken glass. They even said with the blood they can run test and find out who this person was. My parents made sure I was okay and not harmed. This does not happen in this part of town. The police ended up finding the car a few streets away, and it was stolen. When the police searched the car, they found duct tape, a knife, and some other stuff that they would not tell us. The rest of the night was just a blur. I could not sleep at all. I was thinking what would have happened if I let that woman in. They ended up catching all 3 of them 2 weeks later. I keep thinking they're gonna come back and look for me for payback. Who is in my house? My house is in a neighborhood where it is very quiet. No people around. Most houses are on 5 acres or more. It was winter time right after a heavy snowstorm. The house was cozy with lots of big windows, a fireplace, and just a nice quiet place to relax. It was the whole reason why I bought the place. I stayed up watching YouTube videos in the living room, and by midnight I was falling asleep. I turned off the TV and headed to my room. My bedroom sat right at the end of the hallway. The thing I loved about my bedroom is that it matched the rest of the house by having these massive floor-to-ceiling windows along the wall and a sliding glass door that opened toward the woods. My house is at the end of a cul-de-sac with woods on both sides. This night was different. As I turned off the lights and crawled into bed, I heard something, this soft cracking sound coming from outside. Not like an animal. This was louder, like someone stepping on a thick branch. I sat up and looked toward the large window because the lights were off in my room and I could see outside through the glass into the backyard. Well, I stared for maybe 30 seconds before I saw something move in the solid darkness between the tall pine trees. It looked like a shadow between 2 trees. I started to think I might have just imagined it, like my eyes were just playing tricks on me in the dark. I got up and double-checked the sliding glass door was locked and got back in bed. After that, it took me forever to fall asleep. I felt like I had to open my eyes and look out the window again, but every time I saw nothing. I ended up finally falling asleep and slept through the rest of the night. The next day was strange. Nothing crazy happened, but everything felt off in a way I couldn't explain. I'd constantly got that uneasy feeling like someone was watching me, and I kept glancing at whatever window was behind me. I never did see anything. I was watching TV in the living room and the glow of the TV screen lit up most of the house. So I didn't even realize how dark it was inside until I got up and went to the kitchen to get something to drink. And as I walked through the main hallway, I noticed the light in the far room was off. I could have sworn I left it on earlier. I usually always keep it on. I went over and quickly flipped the light back on, figuring nothing of it and getting my drink and sitting back down on the couch. I was maybe back on the couch for a minute when I glanced over my shoulder. I wasn't even trying to check anything. It was just one of those automatic glances you do for no reason. But the light in the room was off again. I stood up and walked down the hallway, just enough to see the switch from where I was standing. The switch was in the off position. I just stared at it. Someone was in that room and it was like they were trying to lure me in there. I started to back away. My phone was charging in my room and my truck keys were by the front door. I knew I needed to get both and get out of the house. I quietly moved to the other hallway and into my bedroom, grabbing my phone, but not before seeing something shift behind the glass outside. I looked through my bedroom window and saw footprints, going through the snow behind the window. Then I saw a man standing just a couple feet away. I took off running to the side door on the opposite side of the house where my truck was. I opened the door and ran right to my truck, which was only feet away if that. As soon as I got into my truck and locked the door, I saw a figure come running around the corner of my house. I got my truck started and headed out to the main road. I was calling the local police to ask for help. It took a little over 30 minutes for officers to arrive at my property. I am in the middle of nowhere for the most part. They had me wait with one officer while the other 2 went up to my house. They radioed back to the officer that I was with to head up to the house. When I drove up, I could see that windows were smashed. The house doors and cabinets ripped from their hinges. Furniture flipped and the house was destroyed and was not safe to stay in after this. I stayed in a hotel for weeks after that getting the house repaired, and then I decided to put it up for sale. I can't even imagine the horrible things that would have happened that night if I didn't see that man outside. And I got out of the house just in time.